Psalm 40 shifts from lament to thanksgiving. David moves from crying out in distress to praising God for deliverance. The opening verses record a testimony of answered prayer. Verse 1 begins with David's patient endurance. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. Psalm 41. The phrase I waited patiently means to await. David looked to God with expectation. He did not turn to other sources for help. He fixed his hopes on the Lord alone. The adverb patiently adds the idea of endurance. David waited without giving up. The result appears in the phrase, and he inclined unto me. The word inclined means to reach down. God stooped to David's level. The Lord drew near to show David his compassion and willingness to help. The phrase, and heard my cry, confirms God's response. The word heard means more than just listening. It implies action based on what was heard. God listened to David's cry and responded. The term cry refers to a loud call for help. David called out in distress, and God answered. Verse 2 describes the deliverance God provided. He brought me up also out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. Psalm 42. The phrase, he brought me up, shows God's action. The word brought means to lift or raise. God lifted David out of a horrible place. The source of David's trouble appears in the phrase, out of an horrible pit. The word pit refers to a cistern or dungeon. David describes his situation as a deep hole filled with noise and confusion. This imagery suggests danger and helplessness. The parallel phrase, out of the miry clay, adds detail. Miry means muddy or slimy. The word clay refers to mud. David pictures himself sinking in thick mud. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. He could not free himself. God's rescue brought stability. The phrase, and set my feet upon a rock, shows the change. The word set means to establish. God placed David's feet on solid ground. The word rock represents stability and security. David stood on something that would not shift or sink. The last phrase in this verse, and established my goings, describes the result. Established means to make firm or secure. The word goings refers to steps or paths. God made David's steps secure, so he could walk without fear of falling. Verse 3 records David's response to this deliverance. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it, and fear, and shall trust in the Lord. Psalm 43. The phrase, he hath put a new song in my mouth, shows God's gift. The word put means to give or place. God gave David something to sing about. This was not an old song repeated by habit. This was a fresh expression of praise born from recent experience. The content of the song appears in the phrase, even praise unto our God. The word praise means adoration or thanksgiving. David sang to honor God. The expression, our God, includes others in this worship. David's Lord is the God of all believers. David's testimony extends beyond himself. The phrase, many shall see it, and fear, describes the effect on others. People witnessed what God did for David and honored the Lord. The last phrase in this verse, and shall trust in the Lord, describes the ultimate result. The word trust means to rely upon or have confidence in. David's testimony led others to put their faith in God. When people saw how God rescued David, they turned to the Lord for their own deliverance. Joseph's experience illustrates this pattern of deliverance. His brothers threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. He served in Potiphar's house until a false accusation landed him in prison. Joseph waited in that dungeon for years, yet Joseph continued to trust God. When Pharaoh needed someone to interpret his dreams, God brought Joseph out of prison. Genesis 41:14 states, "Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh." God lifted Joseph from the pit and set his feet on solid ground. Many saw what God did for Joseph and came to trust in the God of Israel.